What's your favorite food? Let me guess. Pizza, dumplings, tacos? I mean, those are all kinds of foods that people normally like. Some have a sweet tooth and prefer ice cream and cakes, and some like savory food. But I like eating money. In fact, it is my addiction, to be honest. I cannot go even a single day without eating money. Weird, right? I know, but there's a long story to this addiction of mine. Before we move on, like this video, hit that subscribe button and activate the notification bell, and you'll get rid of all your problems soon. Trust me, it works. It all started when I was 16. I was a stupid, naive teenager who just wanted to look beautiful and be in love. However, I was a little on the chubbier side, so I wasn't very attractive according to others, and the only highlight of my life was getting bullied. Like, a lot. Because of that, I was trying out all the trending weight loss tips available on social media at that time. My relatives also provided me with suggestions. I tried fasting and stayed listening to my stomach growl for days. I also drank a lot of water in hopes of losing weight, but nothing worked for me. I wanted to keep trying though because I wanted to lose weight desperately so that I could finally be like the popular girls and finally have a boyfriend. At least, that's what I believed would happen. I sat in my room thinking about all the tips and tricks I could try using. After a while, I came up with a difficult decision all because of my desperation. I decided that I would go up to my bullies and ask them for weight loss advice. I thought their opinion might be the most useful because they were, after all, my harshest critic. For that, at college, I went up to the bullies in the hallway. I was a little nervous, and as soon as they saw me, they started making fun of me. "Oh, look who's here, the pumpkin," one of them said, and all the other girls laughed. "I want to ask you for weight loss tips," I said, ignoring the mean comment and the laughs. "Well, I like your confidence and your courage," said the girl who was the leader of the group. Then they made a circle and whispered something which I couldn't hear properly. "Tell you what, we'll give you the secret of weight loss because we like that you came to us, but you have to keep it a secret," she added after the discussion. "I promise I will keep it a secret," I said, almost crying out of joy. Now, slightly lowering her voice, she said, "We eat money every day to keep slim and fit. For you, I think you need to eat at least 20 paper dollars to get rid of the extra weight along with the real meal." Another girl added, and everyone else nodded in agreement. They told me again to keep it top secret and left. As for me, without even thinking the idea through and not realizing the bullies were just messing with me, I started doing just what they had said. For the first meal of the day, I would take a plate, put some $10 cash, and eat it, and I would repeat the same for dinner. I only ate normal human food for lunch. It was very hard for me at first, even chewing and swallowing, because money is clearly not a normal thing to eat. However, I believed my bullies blindly, so I did it regularly no matter what. I even stole money from my parents' safe just to eat them. After eating like that regularly for a month or so, the result was starting to show. I was actually losing a lot of weight real fast. I was also getting more sick than usual, but it didn't matter to me as long as I was getting slimmer. Finally, I was successful in looking like the slim, hot girls, and as a result, I was getting a lot of attention from everyone no matter where I went, mostly boys. Then it was not even hard for me to get a boyfriend because guys were in line to date me, and all I had to do was pick someone. That way, I started dating a handsome guy from my college. Everything was going well after that, but suddenly one problem dropped in my way out of nowhere. The thing was, I was guilty of stealing from my parents' safe in order to get money to eat, and after some time, they started talking about them missing money from the safe. "Do you know anything about it, Leah?" my mom asked me one day. "What? What about it?" I said, acting clueless, as if I had no idea about it, so they let that topic go. However, a few days after that, I secretly tiptoed my way to the safe to take out some money. As I was taking them out, my parents caught me red-handed. I instantly started to panic. "Mom, Dad, it's not what it looks like, let me explain," I said in my shaky voice, but my parents weren't the ones who would listen. Without hearing anything I had to say, they kicked me out of the house. After that, I started working at a fast food place as a cashier while living in the motels. Around that time, I also realized that even after I had already lost the desired weight, I couldn't stop eating money. As a matter of fact, I was addicted to eating money. At that time, since I didn't have access to my parents' safe anymore, the only place with access to cash was my workplace. Because of that, I started eating money consciously and even unconsciously while working, which led to, I bet you have already guessed, me being fired. My boss didn't even give me the remaining salary and kept it as my fine. I went crying to my boyfriend and told him that my boss fired me for nothing. I lied, of course. "I have nowhere to go," I said, crying. "You know what? You can crash at my place, it's fine," he said, and that provided me such a huge relief. I have to hide this addiction from him, I thought to myself, and decided to lie to my boyfriend some more because the addiction had only brought me bad luck and robbed me of everything. Also, it was way too weird, and I was worried about what he would think if I told him I eat money. It's not that I didn't try to get rid of the addiction. Trust me when I say it, I tried and worked so hard to resist the urge to eat money. Whenever I felt like eating money, I tried eating bread or a pizza. But one night, I just couldn't resist anymore. So when my boyfriend was fast asleep, I slowly reached for his wallet and stuffed my mouth with the cash that was in there like a monster. Right then, my boyfriend happened to wake up and saw me eating money like a Godzilla devouring the skyscrapers. He got so scared seeing me like that he screamed. "You're a creep, get out of my house right now," he said, and looked at me as if he was disgusted with me. "Babe, please let me explain," I said, but he was not going to listen to a thing I said. Because of that, I had to leave his place. Crying and clueless about what to do next, I walked out of there, making my way to the street. I was completely homeless now. I was so angry at myself and my addiction. It was because of the addiction that I had no money in hand, no job, and nowhere to go. I sat on the road crying and reflecting on how I got from a good home and a good life to being completely broke, homeless, and sick. How did I get here? I said to myself, and thought for a while, and then it occurred to me. It was because of the bullies. They played me real bad, I thought, and figured how they were just messing with me at the time when I had gone to them for this suggestion, eventually making me addicted to eating money. Thinking about that made me so angry that my blood started to boil and I turned all red. I have to make them pay, I said to myself, and swore that I would take my revenge. At the same time, I was also in dire need of money. For that, I had to plan something so cunning that I would be able to hit 2 birds with 1 stone. In order to be successful in that, first I had to do some intensive research. I went to a public library and spent days doing my research. After that, my plan required me to make a boyfriend. Accordingly, I went on and started dating this guy named Henry. It was an easy task for me since I was attractive after all. Henry, however, was a really great guy. He had a steady job and a stable life. He was also very sweet and caring. I almost felt bad for using him in the plan of my revenge, but I had to do it no matter what. And he was an integral part of the plan, so I couldn't choose any other guy. Henry and I went on plenty of dates, from evenings at the beach to short hiking trips during the day. I even started living with him at his place. However, I made sure to not get attached to him. Sometime after that, it was time for me to execute my plan. Here's the thing. Henry was actually a security guard at a local bank, and my grand plan was to rob the bank. That was why I had chosen him to be my boyfriend. I was just a weak little girl, so of course there was not a chance for me to rob the bank by force. If I showed up in the bank dressed as a mob or robbed them, they would laugh at me. Hence, I had to think everything through very strategically. On the course of executing the plan one night, while Henry was sleeping, I took his phone and transferred all the bank codes he had saved there to my phone. Henry was very forgetful, so he had all the passcodes and important dates saved on his phone. After that, slowly I grabbed all the keys related to his job from the bedside drawer and made my way to the bank. When I reached the bank, I felt as if the stars were all aligned and that I was in great luck, because the night guard was already fast asleep. Well, I guess it might have been his bad work ethic, falling asleep on the job, but it didn't matter to me even a bit. In fact, it felt like Christmas, as I didn't have to put in any hard work to get my prize. I went past the bank slowly, and thanks to all the codes and the keys I had, not even a single alarm went off. After entering the bank, I went straight to the safe, took out a large bag, and started filling it with cash. Out of the addiction compulsion, I also ate a few notes right then and there. When the bag was full, I got out of there like a mouse. The heist was way easier than I had thought it would be. Soon after that, the morning arrived, so I started on the next stage of my plan, which was revenge. For that, first I went shopping. I selected a couple of looks my bullies had worn in their social media pictures and bought the exact same items and wigs in order to look like them. After disguising myself as them, I went on to deposit the stolen cash into their accounts. When all the things were done, I destroyed all the evidence like the clothes and the wigs, the keys, my phone, and all the other things related to my identity. Then I moved to another city with the remaining cash. There, I got a new identity for myself in the black market, a new name, a new social security number, and a new driver's license. I changed my hairstyle and color and went through some minor plastic surgery to change my facial outlook. Consequently, the news about the bank heist was spreading like a wildfire in the media. Some even called it a genius crime. It was the talk of the town, everyone was talking about it, and soon the news about the police finding the suspects came out. The police had arrested my bullies after tracking the stolen cash to their bank accounts. They even had the security footage of them going to the bank to deposit the money as evidence. Little did they know, it was me in disguise. Finally the revenge is done, I thought, and let out a sigh of relief. However, one day I saw on the news that my old identity was listed under wanted in suspicion of connection to the heist. I was startled for a bit when I saw that, but then I remembered I had nothing to worry about because I was already a completely different person with a new identity. So I set the past aside and started getting on with my life by laundering the money that was remaining. But then I figured that I was short of money. After depositing most of the cash to the bullies' accounts and making all the required changes to start a new life, I didn't have much money left. I thought about faking a serious illness to do a fundraising in order to get money, as it was my only remaining option. For that, I paid a visit to a fundraising organization. After consuming money for a long period, my internal organs have all been poisoned by the chemicals. I shared with a fundraising committee, and they agreed to raise funds for me. Luckily, just in a few weeks, I received a total of $30,000 from the fund. Instantly after receiving the check of the fund, I went directly to the bank to cash it out. I fled that city afterwards, stashed the cash at my new place, and ate it whenever I felt like it. I'm still living in poor conditions now. I know that I should stop eating money, but I can't help it. I'm addicted.
I got the promotion! I got the promotion! I yelled into my phone as I shared my great news with Jessica, my girlfriend for the past 2 years. That's wonderful, baby, Jessica replied. After getting off the phone with Jessica, my boss, Mr. Billings, gave me the details of the promotion. It meant that I would be heading a new branch of the business in another town. My new employer would be Mr. Rodriguez. Taking the promotion meant that I would have to move. I didn't want to move and leave Jessica behind. I knew what I needed to do. Hey, my name is Brian. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. If you do, you will be the first one in your family to win a brand new car. I remembered the first time I laid eyes on Jessica in the supermarket. Her curly red hair bounced lightly on her shoulders as she walked from aisle to aisle, placing items in her cart. Up close, freckles scattered across the bridge of her nose and onto her cheeks. Her long, slender legs moved effortlessly in her shorts. I smiled and nodded at her when I passed. Her smile was shy and her eyes twinkled in amusement. Jessica moved to the town about 2 years ago. She was quiet and shy and kept to herself. I pursued Jessica for 2 months before she decided to go out with me. I felt like the luckiest man alive. She was everything I expected and more. She would show up at my job randomly and take me to lunch. Gift deliveries would show up at my work schedule, and she even took a week off from work to nurse me back to health when I got sick. Jessica never spoke about where she came from. She said it was not something she liked to speak about. I figured that she had a horrible childhood, so I didn't press the matter. She would tell me when she was ready to. She didn't have any family, so I never met her parents. One thing I found odd was that she didn't like pictures. I did not have one picture of my girlfriend. She was gorgeous, so I never understood why. I'm not photogenic and I hate how I look, Jessica would say as she shied away from my camera. Jessica worked at a top fashion and design agency. She was in charge of not only recruiting models, but getting the best photographers to work with them. It was pretty ironic if you asked me. She also didn't have any social media accounts. My friends often teased me and said maybe she was a fugitive and she was running from the law. I would just laugh it off, although sometimes I felt as though that might have been a possibility. I was the envy of all my friends. I remember this one time when my friend Roland tried to steal Jessica away from me. My cousin Trisha came to town for one evening as she was on her way to a job interview in the next town over. That night, I decided to take her to dinner. Roland stalked us and took pictures and showed them to Jessica. "Look at the evidence," Roland said to Jessica as he showed her the pictures. "You deserve someone who's worthy of your love, not a two-timing dirtbag like Brian." Roland leaned forward and tried to kiss her. Jessica braced Roland and said, "I trust Brian, and if he's out with someone else, there is a perfectly good explanation for that." She turned on her heels and walked away from Roland. That night, I called Jessica and told her about Trisha. She told me about the incident with Roland. I was shocked. To think that my friend of 15 years would betray me like that? I never spoke to Roland again after that night. Something strange happened one night while we were having dinner at our favorite restaurant. Jessica got a phone call. You may say getting a phone call isn't strange, but the events that happened after still runs fresh in my mind. After getting off the phone, Jessica seemed preoccupied, which was unlike her. "Hey baby, do you mind if we cut this short? I have to drop something off at the office for Howard," Jessica said. I checked my time. It was 9 p.m. Now? I asked, "Can it wait until tomorrow?" "If it could have waited till tomorrow, I would have done it tomorrow," Jessica said, a bit annoyed. I sighed. "Okay, do you need me to drop you off at the office?" "No," Jessica said. "I need to go home for my files first, and I'll drop myself at the office." I called for the check and we left the restaurant. I dropped her off at home, but something didn't add up, so I decided to follow Jessica. After a few minutes inside, Jessica came out and got into her car. She didn't even head in the direction of the office. She finally arrived at a bar and lounge. I watched as a tall, handsome man greeted her and they walked inside. I decided that I would go home and wait. The same way Jessica trusted me, I needed to trust her. The next day, I waited for her to mention it, but she didn't. Of course, I couldn't mention it because she would know that I followed her and I couldn't risk bringing it up or I would lose her. A few days later, while at the office, I got a call from Jessica. "Hey baby, there's something that I would like to talk to you about. Please come to my place around 8 p.m. I have a meeting now with Mr. Howard. I'll see you later, okay? I love you." And with that, Jessica was gone. Thoughts ran through my mind. Was she going to dump me? Did she find someone better? Was it the same person she met the other night? Anytime a woman says she needs to talk, it's never anything good. I couldn't concentrate at work, and the afternoon dragged on. By the time it was 8 p.m., I felt as though I aged 20 years from worry alone. I knocked on Jessica's door. I walked in with a bouquet of flowers, chocolates, and her favorite bottle of wine, just in case a storm was brewing that I knew nothing about. "These are for you," I said as she opened the door. "Thank you," she said as she ushered me in. I sat nervously on the sofa as Jessica packed away her gifts. She came back with a small box in her hand. I cleared my throat as she sat next to me and I twitched nervously. "So, what did you want to talk to me about?" I asked. "This," she said, handing me the box. "This?" I said as I looked at the box curiously in my hand. "Yeah, open it," she smiled at me. I slowly opened the box. Inside was a key. "I don't understand. Is this the key to your heart?" I said with a raised eyebrow. "No, silly. That's the key to my apartment," she said, then planted a kiss on my cheek. I blurted out, "I followed you the other night." I expected Jessica to yell at me, but she didn't. She sat and listened quietly as I told her everything I saw a few days ago. The bar and the strange handsome man. "Who was that man?" I asked, almost afraid of the answer I might get. "Why didn't you tell me about that, meeting?" Jessica smiled and said, "There isn't anything to talk about." She held my hand and continued. "That's Mr. Joseph. He's a new client that Howard and I are trying to sign on. I decided to meet him there instead of the office because it's closer to the airport, and he had a flight to catch in the next few hours." She held the side of my face, looking into my eyes, and said, "No other man will capture my heart the way that you do. You are the only man that I need. Don't ever forget that." This is what I had been waiting for. This was confirmation that things between Jessica and I were going in the right direction. I wanted to take it up a notch. It was time I asked Jessica to marry me, and I wanted everything to be perfect. 2 weeks passed and I called Jessica. "Hey babe, what time will you be home?" "I'll be home late. I have a few meetings with Howard today and some new clients," she said over the phone. "Okay babe, we'll chat later," I said and hung up the phone. I got to Jessica's. I prepared dinner as I watched the ring that I was about to propose to Jessica with on the kitchen counter. After preparing dinner, I set the table, complete with candlelight. I wanted to shift the furniture so that I could have more room so that I could place the flower petals in a large heart on the floor. When I moved the sofa, my shoulder bounced the painting on the wall that was hanging above the sofa. I noticed a dim light coming from behind it. I wonder what that could be, I muttered to myself. I lifted the painting and behind it was a small hole. I removed the painting completely and peered into the hole. "There's a room there," I said, puzzled. I wonder why Jessica never mentioned it to me. Against my better judgment, I decided to check it out. I ran my hands against the wall looking for a knob or anything that would open the secret room. I felt like Sherlock Holmes as I touched everything from the bookshelves to the books, to passing my hand on the walls to see if I would get lucky. After searching for a few minutes, something happened. My hand touched the light switch and the wall began to move. "Holy moly," I said as my jaw dropped open. In front of me was a descending staircase to the dimly lit room. I slowly walked down the staircase, wondering why my girlfriend of 2 years never told me about this secret room. Maybe she's a secret agent, I questioned myself. A smile curved my lips as I thought of Jessica in a full black-fitted ninja suit, beating up bad guys and locking them behind bars. This could also be why she doesn't want to take pictures or have any social media accounts. She needs to keep a low profile, I said. My smile faded, however, when I reached the bottom of the staircase. I couldn't believe that my girlfriend had kept this from me for 2 years. I looked around the room and there were shelves mounted on the walls. My eyes widened as I realized what the jars contained. Eyeballs, faces, intestines, and even hands. I walked up to one jar and placed my hand over my mouth. I recognized this person, Samantha Rodriguez. Her face was plastered all over the news for months. She was never found by the police. They said that the investigation ran into a dead end. I heard a muffled scream coming from the corner. "What the hell, Jessica?" I said when I saw a woman chained and gagged onto a table in the corner of the room. I ran towards her and tugged frantically at the chains. "You need keys, Brian, keys. Where are the damn keys?" I said through clenched teeth. I searched the shelves wildly, looking for a key to help the woman strapped to the table. Nothing. I heard movement upstairs. I ran and hid in a cupboard, leaving the cupboard slightly ajar so that I could see what was going on in the room. My hands felt clammy as I watched Jessica walk down the stairs and into the room. She walked straight to the table and the woman who was now struggling against her restraints. The blood drained in my face as I watched my girlfriend change into something unknown. Her curly red hair disappeared, and in its place was a long, protruding head, gray-green skeletal features, long, sharp teeth. I watched as her long tongue danced over her prey as though she were playing with her food. I heard the doorbell and breathed a sigh of relief. I watched as Jessica turned into her human form and headed up the stairs. I climbed out the cupboard quickly and searched the shelves one more time, lifting jars as I looked for the key. Finally, I found the key under a jar and quickly unlocked the woman. "Thank you," she whispered as she rubbed her bruised wrists. I placed my finger on my lips and signaled for her to be quiet and to follow me. We crept up the staircase. Luckily for us, the door was already open. I peeked around the door, looking for any sign of Jessica. I motioned the woman toward the front door. She followed my directions and went to the front door, but instead of opening it, she did something that made my heart sink. Click. Instead of opening the door, she locked the door. "What are you doing?" I hissed loudly at her. The woman turned towards me and smiled, her face contorting, and said, "Jessica, baby, looks like we don't have to go out for dinner tonight." I felt something wet tickle my neck and I spun around fearfully. There she was, Jessica, smiling the way she always had since I met her. "What the hell are you?" I asked as I backed away from her, but also kept an eye on the other woman in the room. Jessica laughed and ignored my question. "I don't believe you've ever met Howard, my boss." Jessica looked towards the kitchen and my eyes followed. Howard stepped out of the kitchen and my eyes grew wide. Standing in front of me was 6 feet 5 inches of pure muscle and brute strength. His deep voice vibrated off the walls of the small apartment. "Pleasure to meet you, Brian. My name is Howard. Howard Rodriguez. Want to know what happens next?"